Hi, it's David Casino. In today's episode, we're going to add a foundational feature to BrainDump, speech to text. In order to capture a person's thoughts, we need a way to convert that into text, store it, and then we'll use it later to do interesting things using AI. Let's jump right into the code. Okay, so in the last episode, we created this dashboard where all of the brain dumps are going to live, and we've got some sample data in here. But today, we're going to want to use speech to text to start adding real entries to this using just our voice. We have these buttons here at the bottom. They currently don't do anything really. And I want the microphone button to go here where this plus icon is. So before we get started with the cool speech to text, let's just clean this up so it actually has a microphone icon. So I'm going to come up here to our chat interface and let's fix that. Let's change the plus icon to a microphone. And we're using Claude Sonnet today, which is great. No OpenAI fallback. And it looks like it's changed it icons.mic. Okay, this looks good. I'm going to hit apply. And it's only made one change to the file, just this one line. This is great. We just want to do one thing at a time and kind of incrementally improve the app. And there you go. We have the record button, still has the animation, all good. Now let's make this button actually do something interesting. So I'm going to come back here to my chat window and I'll say I'm going to add PubSpec YAML because this is typically something we're going to need if we want to use a third-party library. I want to add speech to text to the app when the user clicks and holds the microphone button. I want to convert their voice into text. Now, eventually we're going to want to add this to the list of brain dumps, but for now I just want to display it on the screen to see if it's working, and then we'll do that in a subsequent step. I find that doing things kind of tiny little steps at a time, you just keep making forward progress and you don't change a bunch of things and then end up trying to debug 5 different things at once. This is just an approach to programming that I found useful over the years. I want to convert their voice into text and display the text above the list view of brain dumps. All right, let's see what it does. Certainly, let's add speech to text. First, let's update pubspec.yaml file. Okay, great. Now it's asking to add Cupertino icons. I don't think we want that right now, but that's interesting. Maybe it's using that further down. But I see the speech to text library. So this is the third-party Dart plugin, and I always like to use the latest version of a package. So let's type in, just into Google here, Flutter speech to text. There's the Dart package. Okay, so we come over here, and sure enough, the current version is actually 7.0. So we don't want to add an older version. Let's add the most recent one. So I'll come back to Cursor. I'm going to go ahead and click Apply, and it's going to put it right into PubSpec YAML. One important note is if you add the files to the chat context, it'll know where to insert that, and it'll have more information as to like what the best thing to do is. So I'm going to click Apply, and you see it opens up PubSpec YAML right away, and it's injecting this speech to text right here. It looks like Cupertino icons was already in there, so we're just going to leave that alone. They just took out the comments, so that's why that looks like it was changed. And instead of just accepting Cursor's recommendation, let's use the latest version. It would probably work with this older version, but while we're here, we might as well do it right. And I can just click yes, and it'll put it in there. Now I'm going to save this, and also let's get rid of these comments. I mean, we don't need to know about Cupertino icons. Looks like it didn't get that, so I'm just going to do it manually. All right, so I click save. Oh, I'm thinking the Cupertino icons might have been from the microphone, but we'll see. Okay, so now that we've gotten that dependency, we've saved it, Cursor's already installed that package and downloaded it. Let's update the main.dart file to implement the speech to text functionality. Okay, so it's going through, it's added the package at the top. So it's changed init state. This is when you first load a Flutter page. Init state just kind of sets everything up before you start running that widget. Okay, it initializes it. It created a function. It's got a listen function. Okay, this looks good. Let's go ahead and click apply. And you notice that I was on pubspec YAML, but it automatically switched over to main.dart, which is the file we want to edit. So that's kind of a nice convenience. We're going to say yes to this package. Now I'm going to go through line by line. This is doing a lot of things, so I like to kind of look at it and not just blindly accept. Sometimes I do if I'm feeling crazy, but okay, it's adding these variables. It's initializing them. That looks good. It's adding it to the init state. And you'll see these up and down arrows. This is how you can kind of cycle through all the recommended changes that Cursor wants to apply. Oh, it added a text box. This is where we're going to probably display the speech to text for now. Oh, okay. So it changed the floating action button to a gesture detector because I don't want the user just to press the button. I want them to hold it. And so this gives us more fine-grained control over the user's interaction with the screen. So that looks good. All right, and I think that's it. All right, so let's save it. Okay, so we've got our icon, and then it actually put this placeholder here, press and hold to speak. So, all right, let's test it out. Oh, it broke. Okay, so this is something we saw in a previous episode where if you're making a lot of changes to your app, you may want to just kill the simulator and restart it. Let's see if that fixes it. So we're going to run it from scratch. I'm over at the run menu. I click the green play button, and it's going to rebuild it, and it's going to launch it on the iOS simulator. Hot reload is great if you're just changing some text or doing some minor things in the code, but if you're changing something in the init state or kind of where the app is being set up, you might have to rebuild it from scratch. Ooh, runner quit unexpectedly. All right, that's interesting. Sometimes I like to click report because it gives you, I don't actually report it all the time, but it gives you an idea of like what crashed. The app crashed because it tried to access privacy-sensitive data without a usage description. Oh, okay. So this is really important. So if you're using third-party libraries and they need to do things like tap into the device's microphone or otherwise access sensitive information like your location, you have to explicitly ask Apple, you have to ask the user through Apple to get access to these features. So I'm not even going to send this to Apple. And I might have skipped some steps here. Maybe they're saying we needed to, okay, so it didn't get that. Oh, here we go. You might need to update your info plist to request the microphone permissions. So I'm going to add that file to our chat. In fact, you can just, using the @ symbol, I wonder if I can just say info plist. Info, oh yeah, look at that. It's right there. I'm going to say, so what is info plist? So this is just a configuration file for running something on an iPhone. And this is where all your permission requests go. So if you want to use location, if you want to use the microphone or speech to text, you would have to add an entry here. So let's see if Cursor can help us do that. So I'm going to say @info.plist, I need to add permissions for speech to text. And let's see if it can help us with that. Certainly, I'll add the permissions for speech to text in your info plist. All right, we're going to click apply. And it opens up info plist, which is great. I'm like right where I need to be to see what it's trying to do. And it's accessing two new permissions. One is being able to use just the microphone itself, and the other is speech recognition. This is great. I'm going to click accept. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to have to rebuild the app again because anytime you change something like the info plist, it needs to rebuild it and it'll create all the necessary files to run on iOS or a simulator. And we'll see if this works. Ah, look at this. So the app is now prompting me, the user, if I would allow speech recognition. Speech data from this app will be sent to Apple to process your request. This also helps Apple improve its speech recognition technology. The app needs access to speech recognition to convert your voice into text. Perfect. I click allow. BrainDump would like to access the microphone. Well, that makes sense. So we click allow. And now we're ready to actually do the test. So I'm going to click the microphone here and I'm going to say, just testing if this thing is working. I don't see anything. Testing, testing. Is this thing on? All right, it is not working, but at least it didn't crash, and we were able to see that the permissions were properly requested of the user. So let's tell Cursor. We'll say, and we'll add all the relevant files. We know we need main.dart. We know we need pubspec. We're going to say, okay, the app doesn't crash now, but when I'm going to let it know that it also correctly, I like to tell it like what it's doing right and what it's doing wrong so it can kind of narrow down its advice, and asks for permissions to use the microphone, but it doesn't display the translated voice to text, the user interface. I see the issue. The problem is that the text is being updated, but it's not visible because it's being pushed off the screen by the list view. Let's modify the layout to make sure the recognized text is always visible. Oh, so maybe it was putting it on the bottom. All right, we'll see. So I click apply, and oh yeah, it's making some big changes here. So it looks like it's just going to move where this was being displayed. So it's putting it in a column, okay, so it can stack it all together. All right, so it's basically just doing a bunch of layout changes. So we're going to go ahead and click accept. I'm going to save it. Oh, this is interesting. It actually put a separate button here. We didn't want this, but I don't know. Let's see if it works. No, that doesn't do anything. I am talking into the microphone and I want to see this translated. Nope, that did not work. All right, let's hit it again. And it looks like it just keeps getting rid of the files that I care about. So I'm going to start a new chat. And this chat's getting kind of long. You just hit this plus icon. I'm going to give it pubspec. I'm going to give it info, plist, all the files that we've worked with. And I'm going to say this speech to text feature is not working. What might be the issue? So now it has access to all the files that we've modified and all the files we care about. And it's going to give me some recommendations. So there's a few potential issues. Permissions, nope, it's got that. Initialization, but it's not waiting for the initialization to complete. Okay. Gesture detection. Okay. So it's got a bunch of recommendations. Let's hit apply and let's see what it's doing. So, okay. So instead of just starting to listen, it's going to kind of wait for it to finish initializing. And if there's any error, it's going to print it out to the console. And we'll see that console down here in our debug console. Okay, if it's available, it's going to set state. Otherwise, it's going to print the error. Okay, it's checking here if the speech is available. This all seems sensible. So let's click accept. We're going to save it. And one thing I didn't try last time was completely killing the app. Let's just try a refresh. Okay. I am talking. Are you listening? Nope. We're going to kill that. And let's go ahead and click play. And this workflow, what's happening right now, is pretty typical when working with Cursor. As you start to add more advanced features, it's great at just like spitting out a quick UI. But if you're adding something that, is accessing Apple's permissions and, has more complex flow, you might have to go back and forth a few times to get it right. Hi, I am speaking. Are you listening? Hello? Hello? It's still not working. Okay. Okay, we're not doing Android. It's still not working. I don't see any visual feedback. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is it's supposedly printing errors out here in the debug console. So let's check that before we ask it to do anything. And we can see here, error, listen, fail, permanent true. It says available and not listening. Okay, so speech to text is available, but it's not listening. And then we have a speech recognition error, no error match, permanent true. Okay, so this is a real error. So let's just send it this instead of me just telling it it's not working again. Thank you for providing that additional information. Error no match typically occurs when the speech recognition couldn't match the audio input to any known words or phrases. This could happen for several reasons. Ah, the microphone isn't picking up. Interesting. Speech is too quiet. Let's try to address this issue by making some modifications. Whoa, this is doing some crazy stuff here. It's trying to listen for a long duration, pause, cancel on error. I don't know if I want to do all this. This seems a little bit overkill. You know what we could try to do actually? Let's try to do this on Google Chrome. Maybe there's some issue with the simulator where it's not picking up my audio. It could just be as simple as that. So let's kill the app and we're going to run this on Chrome. So down on the right here, you can choose which device to deploy to. That's the great thing about Flutter. You can run it on web, iOS, Android, and we're going to run it. The simulator is a little bit strange. It's simulating an iPhone and it might not have access to the microphone. Okay, let's try this. Hello, can you hear what I'm saying? Ah, okay, it's asking to use the microphone. That's good. Hello, can you hear what I'm saying? And there you go. As I'm talking, it's adding it to that widget. So success. The issue wasn't something with our code, it was the simulators not picking up our audio. This is great. We have our basic speech to text. In the next episode, we're going to add the speech to text and create individual brain dumps. Thanks for watching. We just added speech to text to brain dump. And as you can see, we ran into a few issues along the way. Our simulator wasn't picking up audio. We didn't have the right permissions to use the microphone for iOS. When something works the first time, it's almost surprising. You're going to run into bug after bug, issue after issue when you're developing applications. There's two takeaways that I want to share. Number one is when you're building an app, always try to do one thing at a time. Just try to create a feature, make sure that it's working, test it, and now you have a solid foundation to make forward progress and build upon it. The second thing is when you find an issue, really try to pinpoint where that issue is coming from. You can use all kinds of techniques. You can print logs, you can use the debugger, which we'll do in a future episode. But knowing where the issue is coming from will save you a lot of time so you're not barking up the wrong tree. It's important to know what the right question is to ask. I'll see you in the next episode.